Good evening, everyone. Just let me know if you can see and hear me okay. Just going to log in so I can get the comments up. Hopefully it's given notification that we will be going live. Fingers crossed. It says we're live. Oh, don't want to hear the sound of my own voice. Jamie says evening. Evening, Jamie. I hope you're well. Just wait for a few more people to jump on. So how is everybody? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, I wasn't here last week because we're at the White Label Expo, which is going to be one of the main things that we are going to talk about tonight. Just making sure the mic's on all right. Peter says hi. Sean says it's working. Can see and hear. Well, this is good. Good start. Working fine. Great to see you. Great to see you too, Hayden, even though I saw you in person in real life last week. I'm not going to mention again about how tall you are. It was like the running joke of the meetup. Not a joke. I don't mean it like it was a joke. That Hayden's very tall. That's what I was going to say. And I think everyone was surprised at how tall Hayden is. And it's one of the things that I suppose you don't really think about when you meet someone. He's just very tall. So yeah, there we go. So Hayden said, I did a vlog of the expo myself. Oh, you didn't interview us. You should have done it at the party. Phil says, howdy. Matt says he's going to wear his heels next time for sure. Donna's joined us as well. Evening. Yeah, it was weird. I met Hayden and I didn't say a word. And he said straight away to me, because I think so many people had said it to him already that day. He was like, oh, are you surprised at how tall I am? And I was like, yes, I am. I was exactly thinking that, but there we go. Evening, Simona, another White Expo alum that was with us last week. So good to have everyone on. By the way, happy International Women's Day to everybody, all the ladies that are listening and all those that appreciate the ladies in their life, definitely. So if you do have a special lady in your life, make sure you appreciate her just that little bit more today to celebrate International Women's Day. So just sending out the love there for everyone. Cindy said that's exactly what I said. Yeah, absolutely. That was about Hayden's height. We will, I promise this episode was not entitled How Tall is Hayden Davidson? So we will stop talking about that. Peter says one heel was enough on you, sir. Ash has joined us. Met Ash in person last week as well. Do you know, I'm going to come on and talk about the expo in a bit. And it was, yeah, Donna says happy International Women's Day. Good evening, Ash. It was so lovely. I didn't do a physical count, but it certainly felt like it. Oh, I just need to plug my laptop in. Classic. Otherwise it'll run out of battery soon. It was, I didn't do a physical count, but we pretty much met, I would say, 60 sellers last week at the White Label Expo. And it's been one of the first occasions that we've been able to do that for a really, really long time. Hayden said there must be 20 of us. Yeah, there was more than that at the party. But obviously we met a lot of sellers at the, when I say party, it wasn't a party. It was like a networking meetup, obviously. So evening, Philip. Hi, Andy, another one that was there last week as well. Hi, Paulina. Evening, everyone. So it was amazing. It was just great to kind of get back into doing shows again. In a previous life, before we transitioned fully over to selling on Amazon, we were actually, we ran a distribution company. We owned and ran a distribution company. And part of doing that was doing all the shows. So for a 3 or 4 year period, we used to do all of the shows, the trade shows, some of the shows that you guys would typically go to: Spring Fair, Autumn Fair, Top Draw, Pure, all these different kind of trade shows where people will come and find out about your products and get the opportunity to talk to you as a supplier, and you would get the opportunity to speak to your customers. You would get the opportunity to, potentially get new customers and, full chance you to take your full product range, full, products that were coming in the future. I used to love that side of it. So it was one of the areas that I really, really loved, was always exhibiting at the trade shows. For anyone that met me in person last week, I'm a real people person. I love networking events. I thrive at networking events. I'm really interested to hear about people, talk about, business and all these different types of things. Dean, another one that was there last week as well. Who said they were drunk? Hayden said I was drunk, so my counting would have been off halfway. Evening, Stephen. Simon's joined us as well. So it was just lovely to be able to get back to that. And I don't know about anyone else, but certainly at our meetup, it was just the meetup that we had afterwards. It was just so good to be able to get out there and do that again, but also to meet like-minded people, because, and this is one of the things that I want to talk about this evening, is that networking events are so important, especially when you are a solopreneur. If you're working on your own, if you're running your business on your own, especially if you're running it from home, especially if you've been doing so over the last 2 years where you've had probably little to no access to people to have the opportunity to talk about business, to talk about the market, to talk about things in life, future plans, what's going on, what's happening in the economy, all these different types of things that if we all started talking to our normal friends in life, they would probably get bored and switch off after 5 minutes. But to be able to network and be around like-minded people, for, albeit a couple of days, it really, really does motivate you. And the room was absolutely buzzing. Again, anyone that was there, I hope you agree. The room was absolutely buzzing. Just, not just us, there were other parties in there as well. And it just felt good to be able to get out and kind of do that again. So it'd be good to hear people's thoughts on it. If you went to the show, but we didn't see you or we didn't catch up, let me know your thoughts. It's always good to hear those. Who said that? Someone just jump in. Comments are a bit delayed tonight, guys. Apologies. Callum said, evening, gutted I missed the White Label Expo and the meetup. Always the autumn fair. Absolutely. So definitely after last week. And, I don't want to go into too many spoilers to start with, but definitely after last week, for me, the biggest highlight was definitely the meetup with all the sellers that we did on the Wednesday evening. And it's just given me a real kind of enthusiasm to be able to arrange more meetups this year at business events, outside of business events, training-led events. Now that we can do that again, like I said, I'm really, really excited about doing that. There is nothing more motivating, I think, or gives you a greater kind of encouragement or buzz back into your business than being able to network with people. And it's why, originally when you think about all the, original networking events like Chamber of Commerce and, that you might see in your local town, in your local city, it's why they started up in the first place, because being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, working for yourself, being responsible for everything in your life comes with stresses and strains. To be able to form a network or community with people, which is really, really valuable, and it's really good for your social well-being as well to be able to do that. So I'm going to be encouraging that as much as possible this year. And I also want to say about confidence related to that, especially over the last couple of years. And I've experienced this myself. And when I say myself, I don't mean this myself, but I'm sure we all know somebody over the last couple of years that, due to self-isolation, due to the pandemic, I've experienced it personally with my mum who lives with us. People lose confidence of going out, and and especially networking events with business people can be a little bit intimidating on the outside, but in reality they're not. Everyone's lovely, everyone's there in the same place to be able to network and talk to people. So what I will say, if you I'm just laughing at Dean's comment. Never really networked before, but once Hayden led the way with the wine, it got really easy. I'm not gonna lie, there must have been some sore heads in the morning. Okay, I'm going to give away some secrets here. The Jaeger bombs did come out, so it did get a little bit teensy, little bit messy towards the end. So there were definitely some sore heads in the morning for sure, and that's what it's about, kind of letting your hair down and enjoying it. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are someone that's been intimidated or nervous about attending any type of seller meetups or networking events or anything like that, please, please, please push yourself out of your comfort zone. Make the effort to go. If it's anywhere within an hour's drive, I appreciate once you start paying into hotels and, that type of thing, then it can get a little bit expensive. But, ask around in the groups, is anyone holding any types of meetups or networking events or anything like that? The people that run them are generally used to running them. They're generally people persons, people. Yeah, I don't know what the right word is there. So hopefully whoever's running it will what is that? Hayden said, I woke up with an oversized Toblerone in my hotel room. Matt said he saw me buy it. LOL. Oh, yeah, I did hear there was shenanigans going on. I went to bed and I did hear there was a few shenanigans going on over at the local Sainsbury's over the road. Again, all these fun things you get to enjoy. So, yeah, if you get the opportunity, guys, please, please, please make sure you get the opportunity to network. I am going to work my hardest this year to put on as many events as possible, whether or not it's, in conjunction with Secret Wealth Project, whether it's ESA, whether it's some of the other things. I just want to be able to reach out to as many people as possible and give people as much opportunity as possible. I'm hoping that we'll be able to arrange something in the summer, possibly linked with a bit of a training event as well. Already spoken to a few people about that. So, the buzz after getting back, made me do that. But definitely for sure, I can definitely see us going to the autumn fair in September. That's definitely one. And then we will arrange definitely some more meetups and get-togethers. But yeah, hopefully we can do as many as possible over, for the rest of the year. So, do you know, I was going to say subject to COVID, but it's not really a thing anymore, is it? You don't really need to say that anymore. Whereas I've got used to saying that, when arranging things. I think there's been so many cancellations for things over the last 2 years. We'll be going to Florida in a couple of months, and we've cancelled it 3 times. And part of me, even though we've booked the tickets, booked the seats, done everything, part of me still thinks, I keep saying to Matt, yeah, but if it happens, if it goes ahead. But technically, on the COVID side of things, there's no reason why it shouldn't. So I think it's just that mindset of kind of, having to cancel so many things at the moment. But yeah, overwhelmingly, make sure you go to as many meets as possible. I know that different groups run them, different sellers do it. It doesn't matter who's running them. Just really gives a great opportunity to get out there, meet sellers, talk about, all the stuff that bores your friends, to be perfectly honest. When I try and strike up a business, I mean, I don't bother anymore. I've been too long in business to try and initiate any type of business conversations with my friends. They're not interested. Their eyes glaze over, bit of dribble comes out, and they're just not interested. So it's really good to be able to meet up and talk about that for sure. Simona says, I'm so glad I went. This is Lady Boss Simona from TikTok fame. I was so pleased to meet Simona. I've talked with Simona for such a long period of time, known you, for a couple of years, and to be able to meet you in person, it was just my pleasure. It really, really was. It was, so great to, like I said, meet so many people that you've spoken to digitally for such a long time. She said, I'm so glad I went. Nearly missed the bus in the morning and thought I'd come back home to my safe bubble with my dogs, but it was great to meet up. Absolutely. David, too busy drinking your disgusting coffee. I don't know what that was about. Maybe it was on TikTok. Probably put something on TikTok for sure. Dean said there was an element of having to step outside your comfort zone initially. Completely agree. But everyone was like-minded and it turned out to be a great evening. Definitely, for sure. It is that. And it's very easy for somebody with, I consider myself to have an extrovert personality, to say that. But Matt, my husband, he's, whether people believe this or not after meeting him, Matt is more of an introvert. So, you know, he will struggle in those situations more than I will because of my personality and versus his personality. But when he gets into the situation, when he's in the situation, because everybody's so friendly, everybody's so welcoming, that it really, you know, does open people up to be able to have conversations and, you know, talk about all that kind of thing, which is really cool. So yeah, I'll come on and talk about the actual show in a moment, because I want to talk about that. I think you guys have already, a bit of a spoiler alert, you know, for me, like I've already said, it was definitely the highlight, was meeting everybody, for me, for sure, especially after such a long period of time. Cindy said, another great couple. Me and Andrew were nervous about it too, but everyone was really lovely and friendly. For sure. I know, couldn't stay for the meet. I know we met at the show, unfortunately, but it was one of those things. But there will be more opportunities, I absolutely promise. We're definitely going to do more of that kind of stuff this year, because it's so important for business morale, business motivation, business encouragement, all of these different types of things. Right, so just before we kind of move on to talk about the show, I'll come back and talk about that in a moment. There's a couple of things I wanted to cover tonight, because, you know, being around the groups and, you know, seeing comments and things like that started to pick up. I don't think there's a negative vibe. I don't think there's a negative vibe at the moment or anything. But I think with everything that's kind of going on with the world, which just blows my mind, just confounds me completely. Can't think about it too much or too hard, because I just don't know what to say or think or whatever. And I'm not going to get into any type of political commentary or anything like that. But, you know, there is big issues happening in the world. I don't know why my screen just went dark there. At the moment, that I actually do believe is having an impact on everything that's kind of going on at the moment. So I just wanted to talk through quickly, ask, how are people's sales? What do people kind of feel about the market at the moment? Just let me know in the comments, because I've got to be honest, you know, we sell in the UK, we sell in the US, we sell in Canada, just emerging into some other markets now, but that, you know, hasn't truly started to kick off yet. And I've got to be honest, over the last couple of weeks in particular, average. Do you know what? That's pretty much how I would describe it. We don't sell other people's products anymore. We only sell our own products, you know, across the board, whether it's private label or unique bundles. And so we don't have any issue with price tanking or anything like that. And I appreciate that that's probably going to come up. But our sales have always been pretty consistent, you know, outside of seasonal periods. And for the first time in a really long time, could be post-pandemic as well. I'm not saying that there couldn't be an element in that. I've definitely noticed an inconsistency in sales. When you sell your own products, and especially if you are established in a certain market, it's different to arbitrage, because with arbitrage, you know, it really depends on what you're selling, depends on what type of days you can have. But when you're selling your own products, you've been selling your own products for quite a while, you tend to stay pretty consistent. Now, my observations are, at the moment, and I'm just run through the comments actually quickly. Average, I think, yeah, a few people are saying that. Simona says, my sales are lower than February, which I consider bad. Wonder if people will buy luxuries. I'll come on to that in a moment. Average, my sales have been around 20% down since the war started. That's pretty much the number we're experiencing as well. And it has been for about 2 weeks, which, you know, that's when all of this madness started a couple of weeks ago. So I completely agree with that. And that's what we're seeing across the board as well, in the US as well, for absolute sure. Completely agree with that. Sean says we're going wide instead of deep, going to add hundreds of lines. Absolutely. Hayden says average. General consensus across the board. Donna says so. Sorry. Sales are slow at the moment. Even my replenishment sales are static. Cindy says my sales were 3 times the usual yesterday, and then three sales today. Amazon roller coaster. That is exactly it. So, like I said, with our products, we're generally quite consistent. But over the last couple of weeks, we have had a few amazing days, but we have had some of the lowest sales days that we've ever experienced. The day after the war broke out, which was 2 weeks ago, something like that, was one of the lowest sales days we'd had for a really long period of time. Now, I can understand why that was. The whole world was not, ordering packs of, super noodles off of Amazon. There were bigger and more important things that were going on in the world, as there still is right now. And it's literally, I think, having a bit of an impact. And what I can only put it down to is my own personal experience speaking to other sellers. And I had this a little bit today, actually, where we were away last week because of the show, obviously. Then we come back, and then I've just worked solidly all week. Work, trying to keep my mind off of everything, not watching the news, not doing this, trying to avoid all of that. And then all of a sudden I remembered real life today. Head down, had to do some shopping. It's my daughter's birthday coming up, had to arrange some stuff with that. So all of a sudden I checked back in with reality in real life. And I just did a massive order of, certain things that I needed to order and that type of thing. And I suddenly sat down and thought about it. And I thought, you know what, that's really indicative of the type of sales that we're seeing at the moment. Is they're not so much consistent. It's either kind of Marmite, it's kind of really low, really high, and I think that's because people genuinely have got, some serious stuff on their mind at the moment. So seeing very inconsistent sales. But one thing I can offer a little bit of insight on: when you do run your own products, there's more data that you look into than you look into from the arbitrage side of things. And what's really interesting, because we track against competitors, something always recommend you do if you're selling your own products. You track your organic rankings, you track the volume, you track if you're number 3 on the Amazon page and number 1, at what percentage is your sales at compared to the person that's in number 1. Okay, so say for instance I sell 50% of the volume that they sell. When my sales drop, do their sales drop as well? So if on Tuesday I sell 20 of one item and they sell 40 of one item, if the next day that I sell 10 of one item and they sell 20 of one item, then generally I know that the market trend is that the demand is down. So it gives us a really good insight into knowing what's going on in the market. And that's what we've been tracking a lot over the last couple of days and the last week in particular. And what I can categorically say across our products, across our niches, across our categories, globally, well, not globally, US, UK, and Canada, is that our sales are not down and everyone else is up. It's pretty consistent across the board. So say for an example, today I sell 20 items, my competitor sells 40 items. The day before, it's roughly half again, something like that. It's just an example I'm giving there, guys. So, but last week I might have sold 40 and they might have sold 80. So it means overall that demand is down. It doesn't mean that because if my sales are down and their sales have stayed the same, it means that it's probably something wrong with my listing. It's probably something that I've dropped some you know, search volume in the rankings, or I've dropped some spaces in the rankings, whereas maybe I was number 3 for my top 5 keywords, and now I'm at number 5, which will make that level of difference. Maybe all of a sudden I've realized that I've had a big batch of returns that have come in, so all of a sudden Amazon might have dropped me down a few organic rankings for that reason. It always produces, like, you know, further investigation when you're running your own products. So there's always kind of, you know, a reason. We look into it a little bit more. And from what I can see for our own products, looking at the market, looking at the search volume, looking at demand on Amazon, is that overall the demand is down, which means that there aren't as many people looking for our products, and therefore there aren't as many people that are going to buy our products. Now, I cannot categorically say that's for every niche, every product, every category, every platform across the board, but it gives a general sort of consensus, because generally what's going on with yours is generally, and hearing other people's kind of views, that's generally what happens. Now, it could be that we could be coming into the pandemic hangover period as well. So we've got this awful thing going on worldwide that's affecting the whole world, like it did with COVID. Then we're heading into potentially, well, we're in a period of hyperinflation, period of worry for a lot of people, concerned how they're going to pay their bills. Coming out the back of the pandemic, people lost confidence. People are having to return to their normal life. So maybe they don't have as much freedom at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to browse on Amazon because they've got Mr. Smith, their boss, looking over their shoulder. So it's all of these kind of compounding effects that I think that we're really experiencing at the moment. And I think that it's probably likely to continue until we go into the Easter period, until we go into a period of time when we are just feeling better again about ourselves. And I know it sounds like cheesy or whatever, but when the sun comes out, people get a bit happier, and and things don't seem as bad. So, and generally the start of that is the start of Easter. So I think March, generally I think Easter's a bit later this year. It's not until mid-April, but I think in reality, I think that people generally are just feeling a bit down in the dumps at the moment. And for those that know me through ESA, know that I really do talk in depth and a lot about buyer psychology, sales psychology, all these different types of things. And definitely, for sure, it has an impact. And you've just got to think about where people's minds are at the moment. And their minds are generally not about shopping. But I tell you, Warren, I've just seen this comment come in here from Johnny. Johnny says, damn straight. Appreciate that. Hayden says, could be another factor. The X factor, maybe? I don't know what factor you're talking about. But with shopping on Amazon, it always comes back to, if there is a place to be selling, it is selling on Amazon. Think of all that behavior that was created over the pandemic, of all the people that were not Amazon customers that are Amazon customers now because Amazon saved their ass in the pandemic, where they couldn't get down to their local Tesco, but they could buy their packet of, Bisto gravy from Amazon. It created habits. It created new habitual shopping habits. And what? Where did that come from? Ray, tell me you're an amazing singer. Where did that go? I'm not even going to comment on that. Oh God, did I get that drunk? Did I start singing? Oh dear. No comment. Anyway, so think about all of those, new habitual kind of traits that were created. So if there is going to be you know, any type of, I suppose, barriers to people buying products moving forward, they are most definitely going to be looking to shop on Amazon. And when I say demand is down, I'm not talking about Amazon is going to have to shut up shop tomorrow. And I'm not talking about, you know, anything like that. The demand is still going to be massively higher than it is on any other retail platform. So even if things do feel at the moment like they're a little bit on a downer, you know, rest assured, Amazon's not going anywhere. Amazon's continually innovating, and they are going to continue to do so in the, you know, in the future. Yeah, as we've always talked about, you might have to evolve, you might have to adapt a little bit. So, but you are in absolutely the right place to be able to do it. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was, you know, the rising costs and the rising prices. I was talking about this earlier. That again, we are so fortunate to be able to do what we do, because we are going to have the opportunity that people who are working in a normal job do not get the opportunity to do. Rising prices, all of these different types of things that we can build into our life. If something goes up by £10 a month, if something goes up by £20 a month, we are in control of our own destiny, and we have the ability to be able to do that. If you guys sit down and think about it for the moment, if you really do sit down and think about it, that if your bills go up by, say, 50 quid a month, you know, what extra can you do in your business to generate 50 quid a month? Even if it's going around your house, you know, well, not going around your house, but even if you are someone that's been doing retail arbitrage for a long period of time, well, there's a good chance you might have a load of like returns stacked up somewhere. Well, that just might be sat in the corner gathering dust, doing anything. Get them on eBay. Get them sold. Get them on Facebook Marketplace. They might not be suitable to be sold on Amazon, but there is someone out there that will appreciate buying something at that price, you know, even if it's lower because it's damaged or something like that. People are feeling the pinch at the moment. There is always opportunity everywhere. And it's not necessarily about scalping, about taking advantage of people, but it's about looking at the level of opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with that in business. And that's what I just wanted to clarify. So I just want to take a moment to think about the, you know, and say how fortunate we are to kind of be in this position where we get the opportunity to generate extra income. Think about all the extra that you could be doing in your business. Maybe it's just an extra half an hour a day focused on your business to be able, and doing that consistently, creating that habit. If you're a fan of atomic habits, doing something consistently and regularly will not bring results tomorrow, but it will bring results in the future. So just think about doing that. And I think that's really important, you know, for all this kind of doom and gloom that we are suffering at the moment. God knows what is going on in the comments. I don't even want to look. Elaine says, thanks, Natalie. Well, you're welcome. Tells us slow. Let's have a quick look. I've let the comments get out of control a little bit, I'm afraid. Yeah, I don't know what Ray's talking about. Yes, I did used to do a bit of singing. I must have mentioned it at some time. I'm pretty sure I didn't sing at anyone or serenade anyone, but who knows? Those Jaeger bombs did come out. I'm not going to lie. Cindy said, I'm going to copy this message for when Amazon drama happens this week. What's happening with the Amazon drama? Have I missed something? I don't know. Philip says, we missed you, Philip, actually. I thought we were finally going to be able to meet in person, so hopefully on the next one for sure. No, you didn't miss karaoke unless there was some kind of drunk singing, but I really don't think there was. No balls. What is going on in these comments tonight? You're all being Brit naughty. Hi, Andrew. Glad to have you here. Sales on eBay have been okay. and to be honest, slightly higher than normal. Well, that's good. That's good for sure. A lot of my items are collectibles, but I do sell replens. Do you know what? When we used to do arbitrage, actually, we used to sell a lot of collectibles as well. It's a great market to be able to get into, especially if you're doing any type of clearance stock or liquidation stock or anything like that. You can find some real gems definitely within that market for sure. So that's what I kind of wanted to let people know about as well. Rising prices from your own point of view. You're in control of your own destiny. You are, especially Disney. Absolutely. Yes, I've got a few Disney collectibles myself. You're in control of your own fate. You're in a really fortunate position to be in control of that own destiny, as opposed to just being reliant so much on the powers that be and not giving you the opportunity. Because the only way, if you were in a full-time job working 9 to 5, the only way that you're going to earn more money is if you work harder, if you do overtime, if your business, the company that you work for, gives you the opportunity to do overtime, which I know a lot of companies don't nowadays. Or if you work your ass off to get a promotion, and then you're going to have to work even harder. I can only refer to my brother, who is very successful in the corporate world, works for a large bank, and he has to work like nobody I have ever seen. So, yeah, and he gets his promotions. But he has to earn them in terms of, his pound of flesh. And he gets his bonuses and things like that, but it's bloody hard work. So, yes, we all work hard, but we are in control of that. In terms of rising prices from a customer point of view, I think my son might have jumped on. Is that Max saying hello? If it is, hello, baby. But yeah, what I want to say with regards to rising prices from a consumer point of view and how that will affect our sales, I really don't think it will, for the reasons that I specified before about new habits being created for Amazon customers, and especially if you're selling on different marketplaces as well. I think that makes a huge difference, if you're diversifying where you're selling as well. But I don't think it will make a massive difference, purely from the fact of people nowadays. We live in a want it now world, have it now. And we have lived in that world for a generation, if not a generation and a half. And I think that if I was to say, if that is my son watching, if I had to tell him, you couldn't have that because we're cutting back, or you couldn't have that because of this. And I don't mean that from a sport point of view, but I mean, we're used to living in a world where people say, yes, we can do that. We can go for days out. We can do all these different types of things. It's not been the way that we've been living for a period of time. Now, I'm not saying that we can indefinitely go on like that in this country or in the world of just saying yes, 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 yes. But generally, throughout time, there are always periods of time of doom and gloom when things go wrong. And generally, it will always recover. So it's for a period of just trying to get through it your best you can. And like we've always talked about during the pandemic and times at Christmas when sales have seemed a little bit slow, that people do not operate in the same way that people did in the 80s. And I was talking about this with someone earlier, I think it might have been Matt actually, is that I actually grew up with my dad. My dad was he was an older father, so he was born in 1930. And although I was nowhere near the Second World War or anything like that, I grew up with a father that lived through the Second World War in London as a teenager through the Second World War. Thankfully for him, war stopped before he had to go and enlist. He was 15 when it stopped. But I grew up in a household where he talked about it a lot, talks about rationing, all these different types of things. So it's something that I kind of grew up with, but you can bet your life most of the people who are watching this didn't grow up with it because it was too many generations ago. So when we had all the issues in the 80s, people were still living with those effects. It was only 30 years after the Second World War. So people were willing to pull their belts in. People were, willing to, conform to what was needed at that time during financial hardship. Whereas I think there are a lot more opportunities now. And I think that we are conditioned a lot differently now. So I don't think rising prices is going to make a huge amount of difference, because prices are rising across the board. Whether or not prices will continue to rise on Amazon, it's, that's a different story. There's always going to be price tankers around, and I'm not going to get into a price tanking debate or anything like that. And I know that there's different reasons for price tanking and, different strategies and things like that. But on arbitrage listings, where there is always competition, there is always going to be reduction in price. It's as simple as that. It's competition. When competition comes in, the first thing generally that happens is prices get cut. So when you have got competition on other listings, it is going to continue to happen, regardless of whether or not we're in a period of hyperinflation, whether or not we're in a period of recession, or whatever way you look at it. So get used to that fact that price tanking is not going anywhere, even though prices are going up. The most important thing that you can do is learn to read the charts, learn to look at where you think the volume of sales is going to be going to, where you think it could recover. Is it going to maintain? Is the price going down? Is it going to get quicker? Do a bit of margin mixing, sell at different prices. You do not have to sell every single unit at the price that you sourced it at. Have a look at the overall average profit for that particular product. So there's lots of things that you can do, and there's a really smart way of looking at it. But I don't want people to be under the impression that rising prices mean rising prices on Amazon. I don't know if that is going to relate. It probably will in the private label world, but not so much in the arbitrage world, because whereas there is competition, there will always be price competitiveness. So that's really important, to make sure that when you are pricing, you're pricing accordingly, realistically, and as per your strategies, not anyone else's. You have to work, what works for you. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, we missed Johnny at the meetup as well. So Johnny, if we do another meetup, please say you'll come. It would be fantastic to meet you in person for sure. Hayden, not Hayden, said you'll be at the Food Expo in a couple of weeks. Well, let me talk about the show actually. Peter says hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. At the moment, we're at weak men's stage. Well, I tell you what we are at. We're at International Women's Day. So we're on Strong Women's Day today for sure. Philip says there are always opportunities. The trick is to spot them. Definitely, for sure. Supply and demand dictates prices. Absolutely, for sure. If you've got a heavy level of stock on a listing, if you're oversupplied, then that's going to have an effect for sure. Philip says I'll buy a lot of clearance. Now with the hyperinflation about to kick in, it will pay dividends if you have the fund. Absolutely. Always the right opportunities at the right time. You just need to put yourself out there and learn to spot those opportunities. Be open to receive those opportunities. That's the most important thing for sure. So let's talk about the show. When we did the meetup, by the way, for anyone was like, I didn't get a meetup. I didn't, get an invite for this. It was actually done through Elite Sellers Academy. So that's where we did the initial meetup. We did kind of put it out to kind of everyone to say that we would be at the show. So we were happy to meet people there. But the meetup, we did it purely for Elite Sellers Academy. But any in the future, we'll definitely be looking, especially if we're going to do any training events or network specific events as well. We're definitely going to put it out to as many people as possible. But I was happy. I literally it was so nice walking around the show. Literally had a few people stop me who sort of said, I watched your Never Mind the Buy Box. Just wanted to stop and say hello. That was lovely. So yeah, if you ever do see us out and about doing that type of thing, it's always good to chat and say hello for sure. Right, so let's get on and talk about the show 45 minutes later. So as I already spoke at the start of tonight's session was, the networking was absolutely phenomenal. So I've already talked about that a little bit. I'll come on to that a bit more in a moment. So we went up to London for a couple of days. It was the White Label Expo. So for anyone that doesn't know what the show was in particular, it's not going to appeal to all types of Amazon sellers. It is marketed as a white label event for people that want to produce their own products selling on Amazon. Now, I've never been to this show before. It's one of the ones that relate to the e-commerce world. I've been to most of them in the past or exhibited. If I've not been to them, I've exhibited at them. This is one that I didn't really know anything about, but because we sell our own products, I was always particularly interested in this one. Now, first and foremost, there was what we noticed quite quickly when we went in, because I always recommend if you're going to a show, get out, the show catalogue, spend the day before or the morning of having a look and marking down the people that you really want to see. Because, once you get in there, it gets a bit fast and furious. It's like your senses get overloaded. You get people jumping out in front of you. For anyone that experienced this one, you get a magician jumping out in front of you trying to do card tricks, and it distracts you from the plan that you're on. So try and pre-plan as much as possible. So we did that. We went through and ticked off. But what was quite evident was the catalogue that they'd issue, the trade show guide that they'd issue, was one that they had from 2 years ago, before COVID. And the people that were listed in that catalogue were not exhibiting there because either they didn't, decided to not come because of, COVID, all these various different reasons or whatever. So that was the first thing that we noticed, that we go in and we checked it. Well, we didn't check it straight away. We headed straight away to the first couple of stands that I wanted to see. And these were packaging people and a photographer that I wanted to see. And I noticed they weren't there and they weren't in the place that they went. So they have like this big map at the start. So we went back to the start and we looked at it and they weren't on there. So we worked out quite quickly that there was not going to be people that we wanted to see, unfortunately. But then on top of that as well, there was a massive amount of no shows in terms of exhibitors. And when I say no shows, I'm talking about not the people that were in the catalogue that were not appearing there, but these are people that when you get there, the stand is empty, the name is above the stand, and my experience in exhibiting would lead me to believe for them to be in that position, they would have paid the full price, or probably 70%, 70, 80% of the price, and they were still not there. And there was a very large percentage. And when I say large percentage, I can't put a percentage number on it. But I'm talking every aisle, in every lane, in every section, there was possibly one, minimum of one, two. There were some sections that had nobody in them. There was no shows across the board. And this is something I've experienced at shows over the years, but not to that extent. Now, it could have been for a couple of reasons. There was a massive tube strike on the Tuesday and the Thursday, which was the day the show started and the day the show finished. So maybe there was a few people that just thought, I can't be bothered to go. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get there. No one's going to turn up. Tube strikes galore. It was raining. COVID, no one's going to, all these different factors. War started, I'm not going to go. So it could have been that for sure. But like I said, if I paid 80% of a stand or even 50% of a stand, I would, I'd want to go. So I can't quite put my finger on it 100% why there were so many no-shows. But all I can tell you was that's the biggest amount of no-shows. And again, under the no-shows, there were people that I wanted to see. So I was really disappointed from that respect. So I ticked off probably 12 people that I wanted to talk to at the show, like really wanted to talk to, strike up a proper conversation, dig deep, introduce myself, and talk about all those kind of areas that I wanted to talk to them about. And I would say, I can't remember the exact figure. I'm going to say at least half, if not more than half of those 12 were not there. So, I'm just going to, as a conservative amount, say 50%, something like that were not there. So that was really disappointed. And I felt what the show could have done is they could have signposted that. They could have put it in their Facebook group. They could have said, look, there's going to be, obviously they can't account for no-shows, of course, but they could have done an updated list of suppliers, because I spent time, good hour and a half going through that catalogue and working out who I wanted to see and who I didn't want to see. So it would have been nice that when the ticket arrived, if they'd put an extra insert in there or something just saying, due to the pandemic, we're not going to have, these are the people that are not going to be exhibiting. So I was a little bit disappointed from that point of view, but it wasn't the end of the world. Cindy said, how much do those stands cost? Well, I do, being an ex-exhibitor, I would say the minimum we used to pay for a relatively small stand, and I'm talking 10 years ago now, so prices would have gone up a lot since then. Minimum you're looking at is £5,000 to £6,000 for a small stand, and then you've got to pay for your hotel, all of your expenses, your travel costs. That's a relatively short show, so probably something like the spring fair, you've got to be there for 7 days. So that's 7 days, because you've got to be there for the day of setting up and the day after for takedown as well. So it's 5-day show, 7 days in particular, 7 days in a hotel. And the hotels around those sort of shows are 3 times the price because it's supply and demand. So that's expensive. Then you've got to pay for the stuff on your stand as well. So we used to get all the the artwork done, we used to get the props and everything like that. So 10 grand, someone said there. Probably by the time you've accounted for everything, you're looking at 10 grand. And that's for a small stand. It's not some of those big boy stands. If you saw ClearPay at the start that had, and it's based on position as well. If you're back at the back of the hall, whereas we never used to be at the back, but we certainly were never at the front. So if you are where ClearPay was, as you walk in, right in the center, big stand, place that gets the most footfall, then 30 grand probably for that type of stand, and then it's obviously all done professionally and everything like that as well. So yeah, we're not talking chump change here. We're talking, a good amount. So interesting to see why there were so many no-shows, for sure. Cindy said I couldn't read the map, so the writing was small. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, a little bit disappointed from that point of view. In terms of crowd, it was very busy. In terms of footfall, again, having a relative level of experience of trados, for sure, I would say if I was exhibiting at that trade show, I would have been happy with the amount of people that were there on that day, the amount of people that were walking around, the amount of people that were at the show. Now, what we also didn't know until we went in there at the time, that the show was actually split between the White Label Expo and, what was it called, like Retail Tech or something? Because I always do, this is my tip, I always do a perimeter walk around at a show first, see what's on the outside, and then I weave in and out of the lanes afterwards. So we did a perimeter sort of check first of all, and we ended up, and all of a sudden we're in like something out of Doctor Who. We're like, there's robots everywhere, and I'm like, what the hell has this got to do with the White Label Expo? But again, it wasn't clearly marked that the hall that the show was in, it was half dedicated to the White Label Expo, and it was half dedicated to the retail tech expo. So it was, yeah, there was robots and anyone that owns a warehouse. I walked around with Matthew Wright, who loved that sort of stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to look at robots, I want to look at some private label products. But yeah, it was all like about future tech for, I don't know, shops and warehouses and stuff like that. So that was kind of weird. Again, it wasn't clearly marked We worked it out afterwards. But then once we find, once we found where we were, we knew which area to work in. Then we were actually in the throes of the show. Overall, I would say the name was not indicative or not reflective of what I thought was going to be at the show. I thought that there would be a lot of white label suppliers where you could go up to them and say, I want to create a brand new face cream and call it Natalie's face cream. I thought there was going to be more product opportunities, but there was more service suppliers there, and the product opportunities that were there were very influenced by CBD. CBD, what's it called? Yeah, it's CBD. So we had CBD infused tea and vape stuff, and not vape stuff, oils, and anything that you could possibly think of that was connected to CBD. Now, there were a couple of gems in there. I made a couple of good contacts. Found an amazing packaging company, which was that was my main reason, apart from meeting the sellers, to go. So that was good. But overall, for me, it wasn't what. Who's that? Bought a magic bracelet for 50 quid. Yeah, it was not what I was expecting. So my overall kind of debrief and consensus, if it wasn't for the meetup, if it wasn't meeting for so many of you guys, meeting 60 odd sellers, I don't know, to get a pretty good supplier though, which I have spoken to since, and I'm quite happy about that. I don't know, I'm being a bit Switzerland. I'm kind of on the fence. If we definitely didn't have the meetup, I would have been seriously questioning whether or not I would go again. I would only really go again if I felt that there was a big change in direction of the type of product offerings that were there. It was too service-based. You had like companies there. There was a lot of funding companies there, which again is fine. That's what's needed. To produce kind of white label products. A lot of prep companies were there as well. But it was just, there were a lot of very, very connected to what I thought it was going to be. So in future, I will do a bit more before agreeing to go back to that one. I know someone asked me in the comments, would I go to the Frankfurt or the Vegas one? Don't know. I'd have to speak to some people that went to that one to see if it was any different. Now, I suspect the one in Germany might be more product orientated. I could be wrong. So I would need to do a lot. Yes, there was a sound selling energy drinks. Yeah, Matt Webley would have been in his element for sure. But I would do more research on the type of suppliers that I was seeing there, and then make the decision. But overall, the meetup, the networking, meeting other sellers, getting a chance to really chew the fat with people, sit down, that was really, really great opportunity to be able to do that. Some unexpected experiences came from the show. I ended up talking to a seller at the show who was exhibiting great, fantastic products. Ended up having a conversation. This particular seller ended up telling me that they've had a bit of a nightmare time on Amazon, and that just by talking and asking questions, that type of thing, was naturally curious. And it ended up in a conversation with, I'm going to be speaking to this person, not next week, week after, about potentially looking at running their account for them. And, I didn't go in with that intention. It was just an opportunity that came up. It was there. I could see this particular person was a really nice person. And I think they, had a bit of a bad run on Amazon for a few different reasons. So, potentially I might be able to help that person in the future. So that might become an opportunity for our agency to be able to run their account for them in the future. So I think that I hadn't gone into the show with that frame of mind of looking from clients from that point of view. But if you are someone that does work with other sellers and managing their accounts, I feel that that could have been a really great opportunity. If I'd have gone in with that mind, I reckon I would have picked up half a dozen people that I could potentially look, to be able to run their accounts for them. So that was a nice little bonus, and one that I wasn't expecting, because I didn't go in with that mind frame. If I did, it would have been a different story for sure. So again, that's definitely something that you can look to do at different trade shows if that's something you want to do to, with your Amazon knowledge. But yeah, so that was unexpected. So overall, if it wasn't for the meetup, if it wasn't for the get together and meeting so many of you, which I've been looking forward to doing for such a great time, I would have given it a bit of a thumbs down, to be perfectly honest. So I would say if you're considering going to that one in the future, don't spend a lot of money to get there. One day was more than enough to get around the whole show. So if you could do a day there without having to stay over, unless you're doing any type of meetup or something like that, I would definitely say that that is more than possible for that show. It's a very small show compared to a lot of the other shows out there. So it would be interesting to, it will be interesting. The next one we'll probably go in terms of shows will be Autumn Fair. So that would be from a slightly different dynamic, but we'll obviously talk about that a bit nearer the time. So yeah, just, if it comes up again in the future, we'll obviously end up covering this. But overall, I don't know if it was worth the trip. I've got to be honest, the show, not the networking. So Ecom King was there. Oh, do you know what? There was a lot of speakers there, actually. We did experience a couple of funny speakers, actually, there was like a masterclass on how to sell a course for an American guy, probably actually on how not to sell a course. Maybe he was, super successful and everything like that. But there was about, the crowd wasn't particularly big, and he was really shouting. And, he was like 995 if you, but only, 795 if you put that money down today. And, it didn't feel like it was the right kind of environment. But there was actually a lot of really great speakers there. And we didn't get the opportunity to see most of them. Like Hayden said, a lot of them were very kind of new seller, which I don't know if that fits with the theme of the show either. But yeah, I think you could spend, a good afternoon just going around listening to, the various things. And like I always say, if you're listening to something for half an hour, even if you pick up one tip, one thing that resonates with you, it's definitely worth your time to be able to sit down there and do that. And again, listening to people that have walked that path, trod that path, walked that journey, whatever, I think that that's definitely something that is worth people's time if you get the opportunity to do that. But that's my kind of overall thoughts. That was the book guy, if anyone saw him. I don't know if that's what you were talking about, Hayden. Yeah, so Paulina said, how about the masterclasses? Yeah, again, I didn't see as many as I thought I was going to see. But yeah, possibly we could have spent a bit more time looking at those. But the ones that we did see were very sales focused. So again, yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm like ragging on it or bringing it down. But just there were too many factors that would make me think twice about going again, for sure. I just felt the name is not reflective of what the show actually is. So I'd be interested. I've not been to the Spring Fair or Autumn Fair now for probably about 3 years. So I really will be interested to go back to those. We didn't do Spring Fair this year. I didn't know how much of a washout it was going to be. So definitely going to go back to the Autumn Fair this year, because I want to see how that's different and how we can look at it, from a kind of different point of view. Simona says, I was disappointed with the master classes. Most you couldn't hear what they were saying, even with the microphone. Oh, we had the opposite. They were like this guy was like shouting into the microphone. It was like, oh, just really, really loud kind of voices. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it would be in a closed room, the noise from the crowd walking around, wasn't there? Yeah, there were some that were in closed rooms around the kind of perimeter, but the main speaking area, you're right, was right in the middle of the show. I'll tell you what, I would have been fuming if I'd have picked the stand next to the really loud guy with the really loud voice that would talked forever. Yeah, I wouldn't have been happy about that for sure. One good thing was when they asked about what you did, you could say you were an Amazon seller. Absolutely. And yeah, really good point, Cindy, because this is one show where they were like, oh, yeah, I want to talk to you. It was like, finally, acceptance of kind of being an Amazon seller, especially if some guy was trying to guess what card that he did. But if you saw the guy, you know exactly what. One of the best ways to get somebody on a stand that I've ever seen. Just 2 minutes before, I was talking to Matt and Matthew about, that was the other thing, the stand people were a little bit meh. Whereas when we used to do the show, I was one of the, I used to jump out in front of people, block the way, stop them from getting past. Where there wasn't really a lot of that until we literally got accosted by some stand that had a magician on it, and he jumped out and he was doing like card tricks, and it was a really innovative way to get people on the stands. But unfortunately, he spent too much time doing his card tricks and not enough time finding out whether or not what he had on the stand was going to be of interest, which it wasn't. So it was wasted on us, unfortunately. But I did want to point it out to him, but I didn't want to be that person. I'll let them figure that out themselves for sure. I saw someone asked about show. I just make this as the kind of last comment. So Dean says, compared to the cost of standing, what return into your business would you expect in terms of orders for new business? Well, that's a really interesting question, and it was always really varied when we did the exhibiting. We always looked at it as if pro forma orders collected covered the cost of being there, the full cost of being there. If we walked away even, we always considered that to be a success, because what would always happen is, say, then 50% of the people that ordered would reorder and they would become permanent people. But some of my biggest suppliers would never order at the show, but I would eventually be able to bring them on as suppliers. Like one example was, I chased, we supplied the Victoria and Albert Museum for with our products, and it took me 2 years to get the V&A museum with our products to stock our products. They were not an easy supplier to get on board. They actually have their gift shop has I think it's considered to be, it's something ridiculous, like the busiest consumer-based retail gift shop in the country, the amount of that they do in this particular gift shop in the V&A museum. So you can't get in there easily. It took me 2 years to get this particular supplier on board, and that was 2 years of worth of shows, seeing them at 3 different shows every 2 years, going up to London to see them, speaking to them on the phone, knocking on the door. But eventually, I never would have got into them if we hadn't exhibited at a show. That's where they first saw us. And then it was kind of 2 years of door knocking, meeting with them, getting in contact with them from after that point. And we actually became their best-selling product in their jewelry line after that. So someone like that, picking up that particular client, had they have ordered sooner, probably picking up that particular supplier, that would have paid for the whole show in itself. It really, really did depend, so it did give you the opportunity to get in front of people with a trade show that you wouldn't ordinarily, they don't pick up the phone to you. You can't get past the gatekeeper. So it's so valuable if you are a product or a brand owner that wants to get into the big retail stores to go and exhibit at these shows. That's why they charge so much money, because literally everyone comes to you. You don't have to, talk yourselves hoarse, ringing them up, emailing them, hassling the life out of them. So yeah, hopefully that answered that question. I had too much CBD only to realize we can't sell it on Amazon. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's very restricted on Amazon. It's not, you can sell it, but you need a lot of documentation. I know someone spoke about, when we spoke about, and I forgot to read the comments, sorry. Someone's talking about documentation requests and things like that. CBD, it's, yeah, there's a lot of documentation, certificates, and everything that you need to supply with that. I wouldn't even consider going down that rabbit hole, to be perfectly honest. Chantel says, hi Chantel, met you at the show. Yeah, it was really good to meet you there, for sure. Hopefully, hopefully we can have a chat, as we said we're going to, in the next couple of weeks, for sure. I sat through the whole sales talk while I got my hair straightened. I never went to the hair straightening place. I wanted to, but I didn't get around to doing it, unfortunately. But Andrew said, there's always opportunity. Absolutely. CBD can be sold on eBay. You just need to apply to sell it. Absolutely. And you know what? As CBD probably becomes more, used in our lives, then I don't know, maybe it'll become easier to sell. Not something I would consider selling, to be perfectly honest. I feel that there's so many, more than enough opportunities to be able to do that, without having to dive into the world of CBD. Right, if there's any other questions, let me know. But it's gone over the hour. Not that it's set to an hour, but it's always a good always a good time indication before anyone gets too bored. Andrew said, a good supplier gives you all of the paperwork. Absolutely, they should do, no doubt about it. But you've got to remember, if you are converting them into your own products, technically you become the manufacturer. So therefore, you have to be the one to get a lot of the documentation. So it's all right if you're selling someone else's product with their name on it. But if I then convert that CBD stuff and then put my brand on it, I will need to get extra documentation and safety checks and all these different types of things. It's part of what do you call it? The portal thing. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. That anything that can be applied topically. I'm going to have to look it up. That's really annoyed me. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, let me know. It's to do with like the beauty portal where you have to register. That's really going to annoy me. I might post it in the group afterwards. But yeah, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, there's certain, things that hoops that you need to jump through to be able to have that documentation yourself. But they should be able to give you that. Andrew said, I know for a client, most white labels make these products and they do it for you. Yes, again, I do completely agree. And that's what I was going to, come on to, is they do. But I know this from personal experience, there are some that we sell within some of our bundles that we wouldn't be able to sell on Amazon, purely because they do not supply that information. They make it very clear that you would be responsible for registering on the beauty portal. So probably your CBD stuff and things like that, they know more about that, so they're probably going to be. But yeah, it's always, that's it. Can't remember what it's called. CPMP. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Cindy. That's the cosmetic products notification portal. Couldn't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, if you are looking at any type of topical products, then that's the kind of body that you need to go through and be regulated by for that type of industry. So, and yeah, you're not going to get anywhere without that, and you wouldn't be covered on insurance and all these different types of things. So if you are going down that route, like Andrew said, if it's something that you're looking to do yourself, those are the type of checks that you need to make, that they can supply that information, and you are going to be able to have that information that any type of, you know, marketplace like Amazon needs. But it's not only that, it's not only if they might not have it, even if you sell it on a marketplace that doesn't, if somebody gets an allergic reaction to it, then, you know, your public liability insurance may not pay out. So all of these different type of things you need to look into. So make sure that you're dealing with or working with a legitimate supplier for sure. Right, well, I'm going to call it an evening, guys. I'll see you next week. Any questions, pop in the group, as always. Hopefully, I shall have someone on with me next week, and we can come back to talking about all things Amazon. But hopefully you enjoyed tonight. Let me know if you did. Give us a comment on YouTube. When I say give us a comment, I mean actually give us a comment, not on the comment section, but actually on the video. Give me a thumbs up. As you know, I'm the world's worst kind of YouTube person for asking. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because then you always get notifications when we go live or put out any type of information. But thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's always a pleasure to see and chat to many of you as possible. You're welcome, Peter. Good to have you here. Thank you. And I will see you all same time, 7 o'clock next week. Have a good week, guys. Take care.